Thank you for tuning in to the Imperfectly Inspirational Podcast. I'm your host, you guessed it, Chris Bowman. We're so glad to have each and every one of you this week. And I'm just going to dive right into our topic this week without doing all the little spiel. Anyways, I hope everybody's past week was wonderful. Mine was good, and God's been good, just as he always is. And, I was getting up the other day, getting ready for work, and this topic kind of came on my mind of getting ready. What does that mean, getting ready? See, each and every day, all day, basically, we are preparing for something. From the moment we get up, we're basically getting ready for work, or we're getting ready to deal with our kids, or getting ready for a presentation, or whatever it may be. There's something that we are preparing for. And that's just life. We're preparing for something all the time. But what does it mean to prepare for something? What does that really entail? Does that mean that we're just getting ready and going? That's what kind of just goes through your mind, but it's deeper than that. See, when we get ready, we are preparing ourselves for the action that we're going to do so that that action can move smoothly or go smoothly, whatever it may be. Example, going to work. You get up in the morning, you got your coffee, you make sure you're dressed and you're looking decent, and you arrive at work with all the materials that you need. Why? Well, because if you don't have your coffee, well, the person that is annoying each and every day in your mind is going to come bug you, and you're not going to be able to handle it well, right? Well, if you're dressed like a slob, your boss is going to say, hey, what in the world happened to you? And if you don't have your work stuff, your work day is not going to go so well, right? So the things that you do to get ready are actually to prepare for a smooth sailing, ultimately, as much as we can make it, right? So the same way you prepare for a presentation, you get all your facts together, you get all the things that you need. So this way, when you are presenting it and doing, everything runs smoothly. And that is all the time in our everyday life. We are constantly getting ready for something. But do we get ready for God? How are we getting ready for God in our lives each and every day? And there is a phrase that is commonly used in the Bible called gird up your loins. And that's why I labeled this gird up my what? So many people, if you've been in the Bible realm for a while, you've heard of it. Some people may not know what it really means. It's not fruit of your loins, that type of loin. No, this is more of a tunic that was worn by men and women. And anytime they had to do work or get ready for battle or anything like that, they'd be told to gird up their loins. They would take this, the bottom part of their tunic, put it in the girdle, so it would hold it in place so they had more ability to move freely without tripping and falling or tearing up their tunic. So that's the whole point of gird up your loins, is to get ready, be prepared for something. And that is what God calls us to do in many occasions of our life, is to gird up our loins. And ultimately, our life as a Christian, as soon as you accept Jesus in your heart, you are to gird up your loins and be ready for, I'm going to say, battle, the battle of life. And let's get a little example here. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 1 as our scripture today. And we're going to go all the way down to verse 13. Jeremiah is mentioning how God told him before, he knew him before he was born. And he talks about a first word from God, which was an almond branch. And here in 13, he's saying verse 13, it says, the word of the Lord came to me a second time, saying, what do you see? And I said, I see a boiling pot facing away from the north. Then the Lord said to me, out of the north disaster shall let loose upon the inhabitants of the land. For behold, I am calling the tribes and kingdoms of the north, declares the Lord, and they shall come, and every one shall set his throne at the entrance of the gates of Jerusalem, against all its walls and around it, and against all the cities of Judah. And I will declare my judgments against them for all their evil in forsaking me. They have made offerings to other gods and worshipped the works of their own hands. Verse 17 here, but you, it says in the ESV, it says, dress yourself for work, which was gird up your loins. So but you, gird up your loins, arise and say to them everything that I command you. Do not be dismayed by them, lest I dismay you before them. And behold, I make you this day a fortified city, an iron pillar, and a bronze walls against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, its officials, its priests, and the people of the land, They will fight against you, but they shall not prevail against you. For I am with you, declares the Lord, to deliver you. So this is a very big promise to Jeremiah. He's saying, hey, listen, let's go back to verse 17. He's saying, get ready, but dress yourself, gird up your loins, get yourself ready, get all these things that you need to make this a smooth transition, right? And say to them, what is it? Everything that I commanded you. And do not be dismayed by them, lest I dismay you before them. What he's saying there is basically, don't let the great number or the great size of them get to you and lose faith in me, or it's not going to work, right? That's ultimately what God's telling him there. So God is telling him that if you get up, do the things that I command you to do, don't lose faith. Down in verse 19, he says, they shall not prevail against you. But remember the first part of verse 19, they will fight against you, but they shall not prevail against you. See, folks, all too often in our lives, we are looking for a victory. We are looking for God to come through and say, oh, God, I need you for this. I need you to take care of this in my life. I am struggling with this situation. God, please help me. But all too many times, we don't want to get our hands dirty. And then we forget that in order to be victorious in something, there has to be a battle. I know that sounds a little bit ironic, but in order to be victorious in anything in life, there has to be some sort of battle. There has to be something that takes place for you to be able to conquer it. Well, if we're going to battle, what is the best way to go to battle? Prepared. So that says, God is saying, gird up your loins. How many times does it say it in the Bible? Well, I really don't know, but I know there's definitely 4 spots where it says it, that phrase particularly. If you find more, let me know. Jeremiah 1, which we just read. Job 38. Oh, God is telling Job in that situation, gird up your loins like a man and listen. He's saying to Job, Job was waiting for an answer. And he was like, don't be complaining because you don't have a universe. You don't know what you're doing. I'm the one with the universe, right? Read Job 38. It's very good. God's response is phenomenal there. But then we have Proverbs 31. God is talking about, through his inspiration here, he's talking to women about girding up your loins. There's a place in God's kingdom for everybody to do work. We all have work to do. So this is mentioning women. And in 1 Peter 1, this is the whole church talking about gird up your loins and be ready. See, we cannot sit idly. As I mentioned at the very beginning, as soon as you accept Christ into your life, there is that moment you have to gird your loins. You have to be ready, which means what? In the Christian life, what does this mean that we have to be ready for? Well, we have to be ready for anything that Satan may throw our way. See, the good news is we know that no matter what Satan's going to throw at us, we're going to have victory. But how is that victory going to come? The victory is going to come through the preparation, that girding up of our loins, right? Just like we get ready for our day, through the correct preparation, we are going to have that victory in our lives and that victory in that situation. See, it is easier to understand that there is victory through Christ no matter what. It's so easy to understand that, but it is hard to understand that victory through Jesus Christ and that promise that was made to us only comes by him when we go through him, by doing the things that he asks, by following his commands and have an ultimate faith in him. See, I don't know about you, but I am a person, I like to do things my way. And there's too many times I've looked at situations and said, God, well, I think this way would work best. I think this would be the best situation. Or, hey, God, I think right now would be a really good time to handle this problem. And we get too much of ourselves in it because it's human nature. It's human nature, and we don't see the answers the way that we want them, or we may delay or stop that answer from God because we aren't following the path that God has wanted us to be on. We lost faith. Now we look at many examples in the Bible where people have lost faith and lost the war, or they went off and went astray from what God had said to do, and they lost the war. They were not victorious when they had a promise from God to be victorious, but all they had to do was stay on the right path and not trip and fall and do the wrong things. So girding up your loins in this situation is getting rid of those obstacles in your life that are going to trip you and make you fall away from God. I know that sounds difficult, but it's really, in the end, not. What are some practical ways that we can do this? Well, first is to get wisdom and how to handle a situation, wisdom and knowledge. You're not going to know how to handle a situation until you understand the situation, right? So you get into the Bible and you read it, you find passages about a situation you're dealing with. God is going to give you wisdom to handle it. And knowledge. Wisdom is knowledge on what to do within these situations. Well, what else do? You get character. You get the character to handle it and deal with it. See, character comes from wisdom. It's who you are and who you're closest to. It's what you feel confident in, your character, right? And if you feel confident in God, if you feel wise through God, if you realize the realities of life through the lens of God, then you're going to have a good character and be able to deal with the situations correctly. You'll be able to follow God more closely. See, there's so many problems that exist in each and every one of our lives. And if you don't have a problem, then I'd like to talk to you. But there's problems that exist, and I don't know about you, but I've been there many times where I've dealt with a situation and I would go to somebody, I'd say, I'm having this problem right now, and this may be a problem with other people involved. And I was like, I've done everything I can do, and this still ain't working. They're still being mean to me. They're still looking down on me. They're still not doing what I want them to do. Well, if you're looking at situations in your life where there's other people involved and you've done this and you've done that and you've tried this and you've tried that and these problems exist, or you're moving from place to place and you're still finding these problems, the problem's you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to say anything to you folks that I haven't thought of myself or dealt with myself. I tell the truth a little bit harshly, but I tell it the way it needs to be said. And a lot of times this problem is you. If you're the common denominator in a situation, you need to figure out what you're doing wrong. If all the other ways you've been doing it ain't working, then obviously there is an issue. And this goes back to what I said. Why do people have problems that they deal with for years and years and years in their life? It is because they've either not been wise enough to deal with it, which means they've not had the understanding of what they really should do because they don't have that wisdom from the Bible. They've not dealt deep. They've not fallen on their knees and gone to God about this situation. Or maybe they do have the wisdom and the understanding of what they should do, but they've not given themselves up to God so he could change their character to handle it differently. I'm not saying that if there's a problem with other people in your life, that it is 100% you. There's other people you can't change. You cannot control their way of thinking or doing. But I guarantee you, if you go to them through a godly approach, there's going to be a difference. There will be a difference. And I've seen that in my own life as well. It may not be perfect, but there is a victory. There is a win in that situation because now it is not a hostile environment. Girding up our loins is taking care of those things that are going to cause us to stumble and get away from the victory of God. We want to gird up our loins. We want to make ourselves ready to clear the path. So when we go approach our day, we are ready to handle the things that are at us because we have the promise from God. Remember this, folks. At the end of the day, God promised that there is victory, but he only promises the victory if we do it his way and we do it through faith through him. So if there are things that will be on your stumbling block, which most of the time that thing that is the stumbling block for each and every one of us each and every day is ourselves. Sometimes we need to get ourselves out of the way, gird up ourselves and say, God, let me get me out of the way so you can do what you need to do best and guide me into this fight. Guide me into this thing that I need to deal with. So this way you can have victory. And listen, you look at Apostle Paul, at the end of his life, he probably looked like he got beat up by a train because basically if you add it all up, he probably did. If there were trains in that day, he probably would have got hit by a train. The Apostle Paul was a wreck. He had so much stuff to him. He looked battered and worn. This life as a Christian is not full of this beautiful tranquility, just walking around, everything in life is perfect. It is not that. Even Jesus himself says, pick up your cross and let's go. We are going to have hard times. We are going to have battles in our lives. We're going to have battle scars mentally and physically because of situations that we're going to be in. But the difference in a Christian life and not being a Christian is the fact that one thing Paul can say he had out of everything that he didn't have was peace. Paul was not wealthy. Paul didn't live in a mansion. Paul didn't have a life of ease. But Paul had the one thing that this life is never going to give any of us, and that is true peace within. And Paul found that through following Jesus Christ's example and following close to God and listening and getting rid of himself, girding up himself and saying, God, I want you to direct this. I'm here to get ready for this battle. I'm here to clear this path of this stuff out of my life and let you lead, because I'm tripping it up. And that's what we all need to realize, is that this life is going to be tough. There's going to be battles. There's going to be situations that are going to hurt and hurt and hurt, and we may not be able to take it, but know that there is a promised victory, and that there is something that is greater than anything money can buy, that any person can give you. That is peace. Peace within, peace knowing that there is a victory on the other side, peace knowing that the day that we die, we're in heaven forevermore with Jesus. And that is what girding up your loins is. It is being ready, folks. It is being ready to take charge of what God has put into your life, get those stumbling blocks out of the way, and be fully committed to God's plan for you and his plan for his kingdom. That's what it is, folks. You can do it. You got this. I know you can. So go out this week, get rid of those stumbling blocks, and see what the victories that God can bring you as long as you're following his plan, his way. And I love you, folks. I love each and every one of you. Have a wonderful week.